Hi Astro Addicts, my name is Tim and welcome back to Astro Addict. I think there couldn't have been more requests under the last video to do a full PixInsight tutorial. And you could have guessed it, that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. So these videos I'm planning to do a multi-part series, and in each video trying to explain either a different tool or a different process and method to guide yourself through a one-shot color imaging process, from pre-processing to the final finishing touches. Mono processing in PixInsight is a bit more complicated, but the exact same steps, but a bit more of them. In this video I just want to explain the basic functions, the tools and the UI of PixInsight, because it may be the best software to edit astrophotos, but its UI is a bit counterintuitive and sometimes not very explanatory at all. The window you see right here is exactly what you would see if you start up the program for the first time. The first thing we can do is to open an image. We could either use the File Open menu or double click on the main screen and load any image we want from our PC. For example, we have the master bias frame here, I already constructed earlier, and here we can see it. The most basic function of PixInsight is the automatic screen stretch. So the tool in the hotbar over here, it is a bit obstructed. I like to have these tools over here. This here is the master bias as we know it, just a black image. We can now stretch this image to see what data is actually in it. You will see this radioactive symbol over here. You can see the STF auto stretch. STF stands for screen transfer function. We can click it and the active window will be stretched. And I think this is a pretty good master bias frame. We can zoom in using the mouse wheel, which is directly the opposite of what you would expect. Turning the mouse wheel down is zooming in and turning it up is zooming out. I don't know who thought about this, but okay. We can minimize this window to move it somewhere else. We can, over here, these buttons, we can shade it, so it's just another version of the minimized mode, but we are still able to perform some actions to it. The plus means you can maximize it to the full screen, which you can then again go back by using the button over here, the zoom to optimal fit mode. And we can just close it. Closing these images means basically deleting it from the project. So before closing images, if you need them, make sure you save them, which is the next step. Let's open this back up again, the master bias. If you're using a DSLR, you are probably used to the RAW files, and with the dedicated cameras, the FIT files. PixInsight doesn't like the FIT files at all, so they created another file format, which is basically the FIT files in a bit more extraordinary version. It's called the Extensible Image Save Format file, the EXIF. I don't know how to pronounce it, so the basic PixInsight format. We can now save this. We can now choose everything we want. Usually, if I don't save the image as for the web as a JPEG file, I save everything as the EXIF image. Click on Save. Yes, we can overwrite it, and over here the options. Usually 32 bits floating points are nice. If you choose to save some masks, for example, you can also go for the 8-bit. It will save some disks, and the mask works the same way as would do in 32 bits. And I just leave everything at default and say OK. And what you saw right now is a thing that a lot of people need to get used to, the process console. So this thing tells you everything that PixInsight is doing. And later it will be a very nice addition to see what we actually did, if there were problems, if images were aborted, if processes were cancelled because of specific problems. And we can read maybe some noise detail and define what we'll do in the future with the image. So this console is very handy. You can choose to put it anywhere you want, top left, top right. Just have it in a way where it maybe won't obstruct some images. Let's open an image with some actual imaging data. This is the data of the Pac-Man Nebula. I think these lights are pretty good. Let's go for the actual FIT files of the camera. Just opening a random image. This is the linear image, and if we stretch it, it applies the auto stretch. But this is only a preview stretch. The image is not stretched yet. To do a full stretch, we would need to apply some tools to it right now. With the buttons down here, you can scale the image as you like to either the optimal fit, back to this one, and if you drizzle the image, it would be twice as large and it would not be that optimal. So these buttons down here work pretty well. Rotating the images, you can, in the image over here, geometry and rotate as you like. And this could take some time, but not with the raw files. They are not that big. Rotate back. So these are the undebayered files. You're not seeing any color, and these files are not yet calibrated. You can see a lot of hot pixels, maybe some dust modes if I scratch it further. And you can see the vignetting around the edges, and maybe the distortion. Yes. Here we have, I think, a cosmic ray strike or the hot pixel, but the distortion around the edges is still a little bit weird because I don't know what's wrong with the field flattener. Maybe I messed up the distance as I reset it again. A very basic tool you might need to compare images before and after. The image identifier right here, you can just drag it outside and it will create a copy, a clone, for you to work with and to see the before and after. And as I drag this window right now, you saw dragging this window makes it transparent for the time I drag it. So I let go now and it's not transparent anymore. That's very handy if you want to see a correct before and after. Dragging this over here makes it transparent and it automatically snaps onto the previous location. So the stars are now aligned and you can look at the before and after. Very handy. Let's close this copy. Of course, we want to edit our images using some processes and some tools. The tools you can use in PixInsight are, as I said it right now, called processes. So in the tab right here, we have a very big list to choose from, and of course the list of all the processes. During my full tutorial on this channel I will go, I think, through most of these, but you won't need all of these. Let's go through the most basic ones and how to apply them to your images. The things we need to process images are, of course, the process tools and scripts. Now the process tools can be opened. Let's, for example, what could we choose from? Let's go for the super bias because it's the easiest one to explain, and I will open the master bias frame again. Up to this point we don't need to know what super bias actually does, but it's a good example of how to apply processes to images. So you can see right here, again, the tool. We have the options to reset the tool, which is very handy if you plan to make multiple adjustments with one tool to set it back to its original state. You can see that on the bottom left right here we have New Instance and Apply. Apply has the hotkey F5, and the instance triangle, as it's called here, we can do several things with it. The settings right here in the super bias are good. Usually I go for maybe about 5. To apply this process to our master bias right now, we grab the triangle and move it onto the image. The process console pops up. It makes the, as you can see in the bottom right, the multi-scale median transform. The new super bias image is here. We can stretch it, preview. And this is basically an improved version of the original bias frame, but I typically don't use it. So we could either drag this onto here, the apply, I'm gonna press F5 right now. It knows the active image is the master bias, so this works as well. Here we have it. We can now reset it to 7. And the most basic premise, which will speed up your PixInsight editing a lot, which is what I tend to do a lot. You can take the triangle and move it onto the main screen. You now see process 6. We can put it over here, and this is now called a process icon. So this is basically just a shortcut to the actual tool. Double-clicking this will bring up the super bias. If we right-click, we have the options. We have a whole lot of options. We can the icon identifier, which is the name of the shortcut over there. I can call it super bias. We have the options to, if we select multiple tools, we have the option to arrange them to the left, right, center. Very handy to get everything cleaned up. And the one thing that I really don't like about PixInsight, it is not something too drastic, but look right here. I call this super bias. It doesn't want to save it. The problem is that PixInsight does not like spaces between the words. So this works now. I don't know if it has anything to do with programming or just someone being weird, I don't know. Alright, let's look at the next basic premise. We can now delete this, and most importantly, we can now also go for some other things over here, some other processes. So let's just create some of these, align them to the left, align them to the left again, and now we could save these icons. Save selected icons and save the XPSM file to the location we want and name it, for example, super bias processing. Now these ones are saved and we can recall them anytime we want. This is a very good tool to keep your process in various steps and cleaned up so that you don't miss out on anything you want to do. Let's delete those. Let's delete all of those. There are only a few things I want to say no more. I have a small list of things I want to say for each video. The last thing for the introduction part of PixInsight would be the preview. Let's open the reference image of the Pacman Nebula. This one is already aligned, registered, debayered. We have some color in there now. Let's make this big. It won't get bigger. Let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see. Applying some of the various very big and time-consuming processes can be a bit too much for your PC, and maybe you want to speed everything up a little bit. I will make an example using the star mask tool, which is a tool we will be using very often. You don't need to understand right now what it does and what the best settings are. I don't even know what the real best settings are, but I'm going to use it. Applying the star mask to this image right now could take quite some time, especially if you drizzle your image upwards. You can see in the bottom left it's gonna extract. For example, with my 4-panel mosaic, the 100 megapixel image of the Hard Nebula. This process, every single time, and you need to apply it multiple times during your image processing. This took 10 minutes each time, which is insane. And you can see, I can hear my PC, which is a very good PC. It has a lot of RAM and an i7, 8x4 GHz. So this thing is fast, but PixInsight needs a lot of power. The star mask created a star mask. Wow. Alright. But this process, this mask doesn't look that right. Maybe I want to do a star reduction at the end and have all the stars in this mask. I could tweak the settings right now and do it again and again and again until I have the right mask, but this would take so much time. And now, the most basic thing PixInsight offers, the preview mode. I can click right here, the new preview mode, or I can press Alt and N, and now I can drag a rectangle right here. You now see the preview one, it is in this column over here. This is now the small preview, and we can apply some tools to the smaller version. And now let's create a good star mask for all of these stars, not this one. Smooth them out. Over here. This will now go much faster in the small preview. And let me run this right now. So this is of course the star mask of the small preview. But I think I would actually use this one for my morphological transformation, for the star reduction. So now, with these settings, I could apply it to the original image and have my star mask a bit faster. We can delete these previews over here, delete or delete all, if we don't need them anymore. And these are the most basic steps of the UI in PixInsight. I could also talk about the scripts, but these things you can install scripts manually and maybe download them from the PixInsight forum to get some more tools and maybe speed up your imaging. And there are very cool tools in here. I use some of them. For example, the subframe selector, which are tools I will of course come to in the future. So thank you so much for watching the first part of the PixInsight tutorial. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments down below. And the next video, I will link it of course in the description if it's already out. The next video will be the start of the actual pre-processing. With all your image files and the correction files, creating the master files, calibration, until you have your final integrated image. So until that time, clear skies, and may the night be with us.